Hey guys, Rusty here, Ugly HP. Today we have my 2017 Outlander 570 that keeps overheating. Radiator keeps going clogged. I'm sure you guys ran into the same issue. So we're gonna relocate the radiator, as much as I don't want to do that because I think it's a little trashy. But besides the point, got a radiator relocator from Wild Boar off of eBay. I think I paid just a little over 200 for it. Or it might have been a little less than 200. I can't remember, but it's in that $200 range. For some reason, the 17s don't show up as a 570, so you have to kind of look them up as a G2 with a metal rack. It's 12 to 19 from what I'm reading, so there's something with the rack that's going to be a difference from the other racks, which I don't know what else you'd make a rack out of, but doesn't really come with good instructions. It kind of says you have to take everything off the front, but I don't want to start there because then we don't know where to bolt everything down. So we are going to start by getting the radiator drain. So we're going to pull this lower hose on the passenger side, and then you have a bolt at the top, 10mm bolts on this side. If I can get it, is it 13? We're gonna pull this panel right here so I can see where my radiator hose is going, and we'll pull this panel on this side. I normally use a flat screwdriver and dikes, but we'll get the radiator out first and drained, and then once we do all that, we'll get basically the placement of where the radiator will be on the rack up here, so we can figure out where we'll drill the holes, because you don't have to, but I mean, you don't want your radiator hoses going out the side of the fender. So unfortunately you have to cut into the plastics, and they don't tell you where to cut into the plastic. So I would recommend not removing the metal rack until you get the radiator out and placed and know where you're going to run your hoses. But let me get the radiator out, the sides off, and then we'll go from there, and I'll get back with you guys. Okay, so got the panels off. Taking the tires off makes it a lot easier. Two things that will update you on that I learned after taking it apart. These lower bolts right here don't need to come out. The top ones are bolt nut, so you need a 10mm wrench and a 10mm socket to get those off. These guys, when they're set up in there, you got this one that's hidden. It's way back here. Yeah, right here. And it is hard to get to. One at the top, one right there, one there, and then one on the front side, and it's pretty much identical on the other side. Take the two top bolts out, unplug the fan slides out, as you can see. And I don't even have a lot of ride time on this thing. This is the back side. Obviously we can never get it fully cleaned out, and the front side looks decent because every time we run water through it we think we're cleaning it. So I set it up, just mocked. The nuts for these guys on the back side are 11mm. So basically my plan is, from here, now that I have it mocked, I'm going to center section right here drill 2 holes with a hole saw, 1.5" hole saw bit, drill bit, and then connect them together to route the wire up and the hoses through. There's nothing in my way, and then I can route to this hose and my other hose is the plan. I don't think I'll have to pull off the bumper or any of these plastics right here to do this, even though their instructions clearly says to pull the rack off and stuff. So I don't think we have to do any of that. We'll just have to pull the plastics off, tires off, because it makes it a hell of a lot easier. And radiator's out, so we're gonna clean the radiator out and get the holes drilled, and then we'll see what kind of a pain in the butt it is to continue on after mounting everything. So I'll check back with you guys here in a minute. Okay, so we are mounted now, and we have our hole drilled. So they don't give you any instructions on bolts and stuff. So these bolts right here are for these guys up here. These bolts right here are for this guy right here. I'm guessing they want you to take the bumper off because it kind of is easier to get your hand under here with it off, I guess, to mount it, but it is doable with it on there. And then you still have these guys, and I'm pretty sure these guys are for the radiator fan and mount, which they give you brackets. They don't tell you what they're for, but I'm guessing they are to go up here and bolt right there on the fan. I'll show you when I get there, but right now we're just mounting this guy up because we already have our hole drilled, and I'm trying to see if I can locate a bleeder valve to put up here so as that I'm not running into an air pocket situation. So I'm just trying to perfect what they already have, even though all it is a couple pieces of metal with no instructions. So I'll get right back to you guys. Alright guys, radiator and fan is mounted. Make sure you undo your wire for your radiator fan because it's going to want to be at the top side. You want to feed it down through. The bolts that they give you to mount the radiator fan won't fit in their brackets, so you could either drill it out or you could just use the old hardware. I'm guessing that's what those bolts are for. The rubbers that go in down here, they are crappy to put in, and you want to put those in without them in the fan assembly, and then you have to push down on the fan assembly really hard, almost as if you're trying to break it, but it will go in. So this is where we're at right now. Everything's all tight. Still did not have to take the bumper off. Now we're going to start routing our coolant lines. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a T that had a bleeder top on it for a 1-inch hose because this is 1 inch. At least nothing I can get today. So we're going to start routing our hoses. What I think I'm going to work with is this one right here. All I got to do is just aim it in the right direction to get it to come out. I think this one over here, which I already pulled it out of its place, I think we're going to cut it about right there so that we have the angle on the top, and then when we come through on this side, it'll just feed in straight. So we'll have the angle and the 90. So I'm going to work on getting the top stuff set, bottom set, and I'll show you guys what we're working with. And down here, all this extra room, I think I could fit an ammo can in here for storage. So we might build something for this later on, since we now have this big voided space here that basically is easily accessible with the, you know, tires on here. So I don't know if anyone's ever done that. I think we're gonna give it a try. I think if we can do one that's kind of standing up, it'll be pretty much what we want to do. But I got extra ones laying around. That's for a later video. But for right now, let me get these cut and everything on the top side cut and see if we can get everything fed through and pretty much finished on this. And then we'll put our side panels on because we're trying to prevent as much mud as getting back in there as possible. You know, if we leave those off, there's going to be more mud than what normally would get back there. Like, mud's going to get back there, but we're trying to limit the amount. So these panels right here are definitely going back on. So I'll check back in once we get these hoses cut. Everything else seems pretty simple. I don't even think I have an hour yet into this. So I mean, it's simple, but it's stupid that a company first off, didn't even send me a sticker with it. I think they should at least send a sticker. Besides the point, they need better instructions, because they even gave you a tube. Like, what's the tube for? Like, I'm not gonna visit your website for instructions. So I don't even think I need the tube. But they sent the hose. I think it's enough. We're gonna work on that now, and I'll check back in. All right, guys, hoses are ran. This is my setup to fill it up to help get the air pocket out of this. If you don't have one of these, you're gonna have to take and just squeeze these hoses and like pump the water up. But I will say this: check and recheck before you cut, because they literally only give you enough for this. I had 0 left over, and if I would have cut an inch too short, it would have, you know, I would have been an inch too short to finish the job. But about 2 inches there, comes around, doesn't really kink, so cutting it in the center there does help. Let me get some light for you down here. Comes down from the top, uses that one, zip tie there to keep it from flailing around. Make sure you zip tie your fan wire. I use the old holes from where the fan bolted up at. So that's how this side is done. I'll take you to the other side. So I cut the line for the top that's on the bottom. I just cut it right at the halfway point, pretty much, and then that one feeds through, no kinks, and everything's gonna work out. We're gonna put our side panels on. There is a bleed screw on top of the thermostat housing. You have to pull that guy, and then it is, let me see if you can see it. It is, I hate bending this panel out. Right there on top of the thermostat housing. Focus, camera, focus. So yeah, that screw right there. So I'm just gonna hit that with an extension. I'm not gonna take this whole side panel off. We're gonna get everything back together, and I will see if this thing overheats anymore, because God knows I only have like 20 hours on it, and it's been overheating since day one. Since day one, we've had the issue of having to wash out the radiator in the middle of the woods. Can't even push vehicles around here at the shop for more than 5 minutes without it overheating. You see how much mud was in the radiator. All we do is trail ride, so we're not hitting like nasty mud like you see in Florida. Like, look, I got stock tires. I didn't want to put this thing on here because this to me is trashy. Like, this is a utility four-wheeler to trail ride with. I'm not out there trying to snorkel and sink, but I had to put this on there. So it's either put one of these trashy things on there and get to go play for a whole day without overheating, hopefully, or every 20 minutes stop and let it cool down and risk blowing a head gasket. So let me get everything back together, get this thing bled out, and let's make sure it don't overheat. Florida's downpouring right now, so might be nice to go trail riding this weekend. So I'll check back in, guys. All right, all finished, all burped out. We're about underwater out here, just in time, I guess. Yep. I would have to rate Wild Boar's instructions 2 out of 10. Other than that, the kit's pretty cut and dry. I mean, probably why they didn't give instructions. They just figured anybody but with a brain could do it. Good time to double check your clamps. Make sure you have them all tight and fitted on there good. And then, yeah. Catch us on the next one, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. And as always, keep wrenching.